Let's get right into it, shall we? The new sim looks bloody brilliant. It's hard to believe that those images you just saw were filmed in the game engine by me with nothing added on, and they're not actually real aircraft. Stunning job they've done. Welcome to Alba Skies, and what I usually do is a bit of general aviation flying in the real world in my Bulldog. You can check out some of that footage there and maybe have a look later on. Flight Simulator 2020 is here. After months of being on the Alpha program and under an NDA, not able to speak publicly, it's great to actually be out in the open flying this next generation of flight simulators. The new opportunities this opens up for developers in the flight simulator community is just extraordinarily exciting if you've been into simulators for any length of time like myself. Anyway, let's take a look at some parts of the simulator that I've found interesting. We start off with a common as muck general aviation aircraft, the Cessna 172, flying out of my home airport, Prestwick. Look at this, the first time in a sim, sloped runway. Wow. I'm not sure if it's quite that much. I do seem to, in my mind, you can definitely see the end of Prestwick's runway from the end of runway 30. RPM's good, engine temperatures and pressures are good, airspeed's rising. Yeah, I definitely don't think the hump is as pronounced as that. There's 60, we'll raise off gently. No, yeah, it's nice that there is sloped runways now, but I don't think it's as much as that. Climb at about 75, I reckon. 150 feet, so we can travel the flaps up. Alright, and there is a few errors in terms of the airport buildings, but remember this is just base simulator. In P3D, I have this add-on scenery which has done a really good job of Prestwick. Now that is very similar to what you'd see out the cockpit. Yeah. So if you cast your eye away from the airfield itself, that does look like Prestwick. Dual carrot, yeah. Those buildings there are a bit tall. There's our racecourse. That all looks pretty accurate. This would be a Tesco. That's all accurate around there. And the Citadel Leisure Centre. And here is Airlow Green, where the Scottish International Air Show used to fly. And if you'd like a reference of what this area here looks like in the real world, check out my Bulldog Aerobatic video, which will also be linked up at the top. And I fly a couple of loops in half Cubans above this area. Now they've not quite got the position of the castle proper. It is above a cliff, and they've not modelled that cliff. Apart from that, the rest of the area does hold up pretty accurately. I know this little, is that a lake? Yes, the Swan Pond, Duck Pond. Yep, and there's a lovely little beach here in Cologne. So check that video out and compare between the two. Next up, we have this exciting new feature called landing challenges. Now, at first I thought this would just be a load of crap, to be honest with you, but that sort of competitive element, there's a leaderboard, a world leaderboard, and against your friends, and you're judged on how close to the aiming point you can land an aircraft, how much you sway side to side on the runway, and your touchdown rate. And so I find myself getting really competitive about it, and I'm not really competitive in anything else, so I've really been enjoying it. Let's take a look. Now, it does suggest that you fly this big pattern, but really I've just been cutting into the left here so that I can get more attempts in a row. I think so far I've done this one 6 times, I would say. I do have reverse thrust toggle bound to my throttle, so I can click that and get into reverse thrust and have really fine control of that reverse thrust, which helps me if I've got a little bit too much speed on final, although I'm not sure that's a technique that would be worthwhile in the real world. Okay, so it's at our 12 o'clock here, and I'm just going to come down to the left, reduce the power a little bit. We're almost in the white band. Yeah, we can take the flaps now. A little bit of forward trim there with the flaps. .95 knots, speed's good. Let's see if we can get visual of the runway. There we go. Don't want to overshoot too much. We do have a crosswind from the right. We also don't want to stall on the turn to final. So adding in a bit more power again. Speed's good actually. We'll keep it just almost just above idle. There we are, let's see how we did. Right, okay. So we veered side to side a little bit. Still number 2 in the world, but I was not nearly as good as I was before. A bit of a hard landing. Oh well. Floated over it. Put power just to keep us going, and idle it. Might be okay. It's addicting stuff. Hours will go by quickly. You have been warned. Next, we're going to go and have a look at Glenforsa Airfield, which is on the Isle of Mull. I recently visited there in my last video, actually, which you can click up there. I haven't got the directions. Somewhere, top right. The whole feel and look of the place is pretty spot on. So as we come past Ben Tully here, just on the other side, in this little crevice here, we should see where the crash site is. You can almost see a little shimmer there. I don't know if that's just water they've added in, but I think that might be from the satellite photo of some of the bare metal. I think that's where the crash site is. Well, the crash site was up here, but when it got demolished by explosive charge, it fell down into here. Anyway, now we're going to route on to the Glenforsa Airfield, which I'm very keen to see how well they've modelled it. I doubt anyone's gone in there by hand and done anything, so this is probably entirely a procedural AI generation from the satellite data. Now, if I was being shown this and I didn't know any better, I would just assume it was a GoPro on a cub, on a carbon cub. Especially this shot. If you'd seen that a year or so, a couple of years ago, you'd definitely think that was real.
before you knew about Flight Simulator 2020.
500.
It genuinely does look like Glenforsa, that's fantastic. Okay, and we'll naturally adopt the 3-point attitude. Oh, we bounce on 2 wheels. Get the stick back there, we can feel the tail wheels touching the ground. And wake up feet. Now there is a hotel here which is right next to where you park the aircraft. And yeah, you can look at your plane and the fantastic view which I'm about to show you from your hotel window. Now, how would you like this for a hotel view? Gorgeous.
Now for an area that's really improved, is home computer processing power has vastly improved over the years. The edge of the flight envelope. Now in FSX P3D, the aircraft feels like it's on rails. It doesn't really know what to do when it gets to a stalling angle of attack, but the aerodynamics are much more refined in this, and it feels a lot more realistic. Let's take a look at some aerobatics. What I did just there was a spin. It was a little bit messy, but the spin characteristics are a lot more closer to reality than FSX or P3D, for example. And looking at the sight gauge, pulling up into the vertical, and easing it off over the top, and then pulling again as we accelerate. So we're using top pedal to keep the nose up. There we go. You don't need too much forward stick in this to do, in fact we're climbing there. As it's a completely symmetrical wing, more or less, it produces lift in the negative as well as it does in the positive. So we'll just raise the nose a little bit there, and bring us the right way round again. Okay, we'll do a quarter clover to head back out to sea. There's a good speed, I reckon. And ease the back pressure off. Wasn't quite 90 degrees. There we are, headed back out to sea on quarter clover. So that's good for changing your axis on an air display. Try another stall turn because I'm annoyed that they're not quite working properly for me. Probably user error more than anything. Right, let's try that there. Okay, more or less. Bit of a bridge at the top. Let the airspeed build in a dive. Not quite a 90-degree dive. Cool, so we know aerobatic aircraft handle better than they did in previous simulators. Thanks for joining me on this first look video at Flight Simulator 2020. Obviously a lot of potential here, and I plan to do some more specialised videos, perhaps comparing it directly to older sims and directly to real life as well. So stay tuned for them, and more than likely some live streams on my Alba Twitch. Next week we're flying real aircraft again. I thought I'd leave you with this this departure from London Heathrow, and we're flying out over London, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, you knew that, didn't you? It's Flight Simulator 2020. Let's go.